Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Limbloss Connection, the next step. We are lucky to have Jamie Draper join us today. He's out of Chicago, and we're going to talk with him today about his amputation. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. Good to be here.
Good. So, before we dive into all the everything, Jamie, about your amputation and your experience and whatnot, I'd like to just talk a little bit about your personal life before amputation. What did that look like before you had your surgery? What kind of things were you up to?
I was very active in junior high and high school. I used to run cross country and track. Going through college and even after that, I played 16-inch softball. I golfed about twice a week, and just any other sports that I could participate in. I
Yes.
enjoyed
Yeah.
biking.
Right. So you like the sports. That was
Right.
kind of me too. I was biking quite a bit, like mountain biking is what I did anyway. And I
Me
played a
too.
lot of golf. And I tell you, I'm missing it, really missing it. How about you?
Yeah. I miss it a lot.
Yeah.
About in 2017, I kind of converted some of that because I bought a place in Michigan. So I was out on my boat most weekends in the summer. So not as much golf, but I was still very active.
Yeah. Good. We're going to dive into that a little bit.
Sure.
Um, so Jamie, what happened? Well, before we get into that, when was your amputation?
February 27th of 2023.
Okay, so it's only been a couple years
Right.
that this has happened. Are you up and walking and everything else still?
I am, but I still use a cane when I'm out in public.
Yeah. Okay.
I do have a lot of pain, but I'd rather
You-
be safe than sorry. I can walk around the house and in remote areas without a cane, but if I'm in public, I don't want to be distracted or bumped into.
Yeah, that makes sense too, because it's not so much whether you can walk and keep your balance and things. It's the other people that are running by and they don't notice you and don't consider what's going on in your life. They don't know, right? So
Right.
it's hard for them. All right, well, let's dive into it. Tell me about your amputation. Like where are you amputated first of all, and then how did it happen?
So I'm a transmetatarsal amputee on my left foot. So they removed about half of my foot and they had to do what's called a debridement of all the nerves in both of my heels. So they removed all the nerves because I had frostbite and then the nerves got infected with a gangrene infection as I
Right.
was waiting for my amputation.
How did you get frostbite? Like
And
what
it
happened?
happened in Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in Michigan at my place where I used to go out on the boat. And it was February of 2023, the beginning of the month, and I woke up and my feet were charred black. And I knew that wasn't right. I couldn't walk, I couldn't put any pressure on my feet. And then I realized that I had run out of propane during the night and the temperatures
Oh,
dropped like 20 below zero. And I was in a fabricated trailer, so there's no insulation. The heater obviously went out, and unfortunately, I fell asleep, which I usually don't sleep well, but I was like a bear in hibernation that night. And
yeah.
I was kind of snowed in as well, so I couldn't really get out anyways.
Frostbite can hit really fast, is what I understand, like within minutes, never mind, hours if you were sleeping for
Right.
hours. Just imagine. And Michigan, whereabouts in Michigan were you?
The Sister Lakes area, so it's about 2 hours from Chicago.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's unfortunate. So you've got half your foot missing.
Right.
Your heels are missing, not missing, but your nerves are you know um, changed in
Right.
your nerves. So, what kind of pain are you feeling? You mentioned that earlier, is that you have pain.
It's a lot of phantom pain, obviously, with my left foot that's missing, but
Okay.
also with the heels, since there's no nerves there. And I assume that they're not connecting through the nerves through the rest of my feet. Um, so when I walk, it can hurt quite a bit if,
Yeah.
I'm pounding on a cement or something. But I'm still able to get around and, I do the best I can. I
Yeah.
also try to ride a recumbent bike, so it's a three-wheel bike. I'm doing a lot of working with that. I'm trying to get more active in adaptive sports. But yeah, the pain is pretty much throughout my feet.
Yeah.
And I've tried to go to get other pain medicine or treatments, but insurance won't approve it because I'm not diabetic. They say I have to be diabetic for a certain treatment. So I'm trying to work through some of that and see if there's anything else they can do.
Mm, that's challenging. Insurance
Yeah.
companies are all like that, right? They don't want to pay out, they don't want to spend money, but you sure have to pay into it. It's,
Well,
you're
and
in
I'm
this,
I'm on public aid now.
yeah. What does that mean?
It means my insurance is basically free in the US.
Oh, that's great. That's
My
great.
health care is basically free.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll come through then. They'll be able to help you out. Do you wear
Right.
prosthetics at all? Any kind of prosthetic?
I do not. What I do have is they call it a shoe filler or an insert. So
Yeah.
from the nub on my foot to the end of the shoe, it's almost like one of the Dr. Scholl's
Right.
supports underneath, and it's in both of my feet underneath to keep my feet in the same balance. And then there's the filler from the nub up to the front of the shoe so that my foot doesn't flop and
Okay.
cause me to fall easier.
Yeah. And sorry, Jamie, are both feet the same way, like halfway up?
No, my right foot is full.
It's full, and the other one, your left foot is halfway up. So that must be really challenging
Right.
from a balance perspective, or at least it must have been in the beginning. I'm sure you're getting used to it now.
Yeah, and I also because I was taking some falls, they also gave me it's called a spry step, and it's a brace that actually has a metal plate that goes under my left foot, and it's connected to a brace that kind of comes outward,
Right?
and then it wraps around my calf so that it provides more stability and balance.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So when you first got your amputation, what kind of rehab did you go under follow to get back up and walking?
After being in the hospital for I spent 2 weeks in a hospital in Michigan that didn't have the ability to amputate. And after not being transferred upon my request, my parents picked me up and brought me back to Chicago, where I went to University of Chicago. So then a week later, I had the amputation. Spent another week and a half or two in the hospital. No real physical therapy or anything like that at that time. And then I went directly to an inpatient rehab center that had recently been acquired by the University of Chicago.
Okay.
One of the hospitals and its rehab center got acquired by University of Chicago, and Shirley Ryan Ability Labs, which was huge in the US, ran the physical therapy there. So I spent 2 weeks in therapy there, going 2 to 3 times a day, for both physical and occupational therapy.
Right.
And when I was discharged, I came home to live with my parents. And I then went, after about a week, finally got into Shirley Ryan Ability Labs. So my parents would drop me off in the mornings 3 days a week, and I would go for 2+ hours of physical and occupational therapy there for months.
Oh, good for
And
you.
then that got reduced to 2 times a week.
Do you
And at
think
that
that
point, I was driving, so
do
I
you
could take
think that was
myself.
enough? Or would you like to have
Yes
stayed
and
in?
no.
Yeah.
I would have liked, well, I actually, when I was at the inpatient, I asked to stay in an extra week,
Okay.
but because of insurance and all the regulations, it wouldn't get covered.
Yeah.
And then the probably call it about 8 months or so at the outpatient and day patient at Shirley Ryan. That was probably enough at the time, but then I didn't keep up with it on my own.
Right.
And, I would take some falls, and there was once or twice I had to go back onto the walker instead of just a cane.
Yeah.
And I got approved to go back. So I probably went to Shirley Ryan, the outpatient and day patient, probably for about a year and a half on and off.
I don't know. Okay. And it took that long to get up and walking properly, I guess, right? Takes a long
Well,
time
I
to
was
get
walking,
rehab.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was walking properly after the inpatient at
Okay.
um and then the first day or the last day at the inpatient, they had me up on a cane instead of just a walker.
Oh, that's great.
And
Yeah.
I was real apprehensive about that, but I was able to make it probably, I call it like 200 meters or so.
Okay. And what about today? Are you pretty comfortable going out? Any fears or anything like that you have?
I don't have any fears per se, but I have had some situations where people just have no regard for your safety, even when you're on a cane.
Yeah.
They'll cut you off with a shopping cart when I don't have a shopping cart or anything,
Yeah.
and I'll lose my balance. I've had people, like rev their engine as I'm crossing the street and then honk at me and give me inappropriate gestures. So those are
Yeah.
the kind of distractions that just
Yeah, it's like
are not suitable.
is it the type of person or do they not notice that you have a handicap? I don't like that word, by the way, handicap, but a disability, whatever
Differently
you want
abled.
to call it. What's that?
Differently abled.
Differently abled. That's a good way to put it. Um, yeah, so do they not notice or they just they just don't have any consideration, you wonder?
I think it's a mix.
Probably
Some people
both.
don't notice and then are very apologetic, and other people just kind of laugh after, you almost fall and cut yourself, and then they just look and laugh and walk away.
Yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah,
Well, there's a lot of awareness and education that we have to get out there, that's for sure. And it's one of the
definitely.
things that we're doing at Limbloss Connection is to try to make people aware and advocate for us that hey, we don't have the same ability as what we used to, and we have new challenges. And so be aware of
Yeah.
that, right? Listen,
Right.
what was your mental state during all of this, and even today? Like, how are you doing mentally? Because this is trauma, right? And it's hard to go through.
Mhm. I have my ups and downs, like anybody
Mhm.
does. But for the most part, I'm pretty positive about where I'm at now.
Yeah.
This coming Sunday, I'm going to be doing what's called Skyride Chicago. And for Shirley Ryan Ability Labs, where I had my therapy, they do a benefit each year on the first Sunday in November when the
Okay.
clocks go back. And I'm
Yeah.
going to climb um, 105 flights of stairs
Yeah.
up Sears Tower, as most of us know it, now Willis Tower,
Yeah.
for a charity for them. And I did do it 2 years ago, 8 months after my amputation, and I made it to the top.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it last year because I had some family things going on, but I'm geared up to do it again this coming Sunday.
Wow.
I'm looking
That-
forward to it.
That's incredible. That's I forgot that they have that in Chicago, and really glad that you're doing that. Jamie. It's quite an accomplishment,
Yeah.
that's for sure. We in Toronto climbed the CN Tower the same
Yes.
way to raise money. I don't know when they do that, but people have done that. I actually had a friend that carried him and his friend carried a fridge up the stairs all the way to the top, so you could imagine, right? A lot of
Oh,
work.
wow.
Yeah, so really glad that you're doing that. That's
There's a
quite
lot
an
of firemen that
accomplishment.
do it in their,
Yeah.
there's a lot of firemen that do it in their full gear too.
Yeah, yeah. It's incredible. It's incredible. For those on the call that have never seen the Sears Tower, how many flights is it? It's quite high.
It's
I don't know,
105 flights.
105 flights, right?
Yep.
So that's pretty up there. I've been up there, but I've taken an elevator. So
Yeah.
yeah. That was a little bit of an easier ride, that's for sure. Well, listen, Jamie, what would you tell somebody that's going through an amputation? They've just heard that, hey, you're going to lose your limb, regardless of what limb it's going to be. I mean, it's still traumatic, whether it's half a foot, a leg, an arm, or all limbs. What would you tell them?
Right. Life is going to be different, but it's going to be just as much, if not more rewarding afterwards with what you can accomplish and prove other people that haven't gone through it, prove them wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good thing. People are they're worried about what the future holds. I know I was when they told me I was going to lose my leg. I was like, how am I going to get around? And you end up doing okay, and it motivates you to do better. The other thing I found,
Definitely.
Jamie, is that it really changes the way you look at life. You're more grateful, you're kinder to
Definitely.
people. It changes you inside. Did that do the same to you?
Definitely. I've had some friends that have basically walked away from our friendship because they're embarrassed to be seen with me in public and actually made
Yeah,
comments about it. And I've I don't believe I've ever felt that way about anybody else. Um, and there's other people, when I decided to do the stair climb 2 years ago, I told some friends and family I was going to do it. And some of them just said, I hope you can make it. Good luck. Just be safe. And others said, do you really think you're going to be able to do this
right.
soon after your operation?
Yeah,
And I would have normally been a little bit, I don't know what I would have said normally, but that was the motivation that I needed that, yeah, I can do this.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then when I got done with it, and everybody said, so how far did you make it up? And I said, you only get a medal if you make it to the top. And I showed them my medal, and they
Mm,
were all in awe because most of them, if not all of them, they would not be able to make it.
right, right. Yeah, you get more strength. It's funny how the body adapts to these things, right? And you do get motivated to do better. Um, so you say you lost some friends.
Right.
Did you gain any friends since your amputation?
Oh, a ton of new friends, whether
Yeah,
they're in amputee community or not. It's
yeah,
just the people that are more accepting and more genuine.
right.
And it takes a little time to adapt with the other non-amputees because they're always trying to help you to do everything. And it takes a couple of months or so depending on how frequently you see them, before they understand that if I need help, I'm going to ask for it.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily just need someone opening the door for me all the time or other, pulling out my chair or anything like that.
yeah. It's funny how that happens. They all want to help you. Even when I stumble a little bit, my wife or somebody, my son will try to grab me, and that actually throws me off more. And I
Yeah,
almost fall because of that. And so I've had to tell them, listen, just let me do this myself. I can correct myself.
right.
We have to learn that because if we're at a hockey game or if we're at a baseball game and it's crowded, maybe it's the mall, somebody goes running by you, a little child does, you lose your footing and your balance. So you have to be able to correct yourself.
Exactly. And there's a lot of people that they'll, I actually had an instance when I first started going to my new church, and the guy reminded me of it yesterday, who I've become friends with. But when he first met me as we were leaving church, he went to pat me on my back, and it
Yeah,
startled me, and I almost fell, and he tried to catch me.
yeah,
And yesterday he was joking. He's like, "Yeah, now I know not to pat you on the back, and I know not to try to catch you."
yeah.
But obviously it wasn't intentional on his part either.
Well, they want to do good. They want to make sure you're okay, right? Have you ever fallen, Jamie?
Exactly. Right.
Have you ever fallen yourself?
Several times. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you just
Yeah.
get back up, right? And like I know when I was in rehab, my OT and my PT would say to me, don't fall, be careful. You're gonna careful." And I used to turn to them and said, "Listen, I used to fall when I had legs. Never mind when I
Right.
don't. I'm gonna fall. It's gonna happen. So we have to accept that, and we have to learn from that. And we just learn to get up and keep going. So hopefully you
Well,
don't, yeah,
one of the first things they taught me in physical and occupational therapy is how to fall and how to get back up.
right, exactly.
And first
Yeah,
they would teach me how to get back up, and then they would teach me how to fall after I learned how to get back up.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it's covered in most rehab things. Programs is really, how to fall, how to get back up. It sounds weird, eh? Like
Right,
how to fall, but you don't want to fall, on your hands, but you'll break your hands. You want to kind of fall
right.
on your side if you can. You want to watch your limb, those types of things. So yeah, there's a little bit to it.
Well, one of the other things is about 20 years ago, I had to have what's called a laminectomy,
Okay.
where I had issues in my neck with my spinal cord. A
Okay.
vertebrae and two discs were impinging on my spinal cord and causing nerve and muscle damage to mostly my hands and my forearms.
Yeah.
So my hands are kind of, I'll use the term, there's a limb difference in my hands now.
Right.
So like my right hand especially just claws and I can't extend the fingers out right.
Oh,
So
really?
between being on my, yeah, so between being on my cane and then going to shake somebody's hand and they feel my hand for the first time meeting me, I've had people say immediately that they thought I had either Lou Gehrig's or Parkinson's disease.
Right. Right.
So I would say don't judge a book by its cover. Get to know the person before you
Yeah.
make assumptions.
Yeah, that's right. And just because we are look a little bit different, we have a limb loss, we're still human, we're still the same people.
Right.
We have the same ability to think and do what we used to do. Sometimes if it's physical, you can even still do what you used to do. But
Right.
you can't judge somebody by its cover. Are you working now, Jamie? Are you still working?
Yeah, I'm a sole proprietor as an accountant.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have a more flexible schedule.
Yeah.
Um, but I can work from home. I go into an office where a friend of mine has a financial advising
Yeah.
company, so I help him out with some tax returns. I got some new
Oh,
bookkeeping clients, so I'm trying to
yeah.
grow my business and stay involved in the amputee community at the same time. So I want to have that balance.
Yeah. You're a good guy to know. It's, you do get my taxes done. So let's move into another topic, Jamie.
Okay.
You talked a little bit about how you're very sports oriented and whatnot. You
Right.
also talked about pain. Do you find that because you're active now and you've got the bike, you're doing things like climbing the stairs, does that help your pain or does it put you in more pain?
I think it might be a little bit of a combination depending on
Yeah.
what I do. If I go walking 5 miles, which I've done after riding a bike 10 miles in the same day, I might
Wow.
have some more pain. But if I walk first and then bike, it relieves the pain. So it depends on what your mix of exercise is, as well as to me, the mental side of it is if I'm more active at that point in time, it
Yeah.
does take away the pain because I'm not focused on it.
Right. Right.
If I lay around or sit around too much watching TV or reading a book, then the pain just kind of becomes more apparent to me.
Yeah, and there's not much you can do with phantom pain, is there?
Right.
They have different tips and whatnot, like you can rub your limb or whatever you're missing. You can I find like hot showers help me. I don't know why, but
Mhm.
it takes away the pain and I'm good again for a couple hours. But I find it worse at night than ever. That's when I find it really hard. I
Yeah.
think most people do. Listen, you have a bike. You're talking about your bike. Tell me about it because people can't picture you. It's not your typical bike that you get on, and get on the seat and hold the handlebars and ride, right? You sit in this thing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I used to ride a two-wheel road bike and then it's still sitting in my parents' garage. And 3 months ago or so, I was looking at it and I said, I want to get back on a bike. And I had kept hearing about, they call it a bent bike or that's short for a recumbent bike.
Yeah.
So mine has two wheels in the front and one in the back, and
Right.
it's lower to the ground, and it actually has a back cushion as well as the seat. So you're
Okay.
more reclined and comfortable.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about coming up to a stop sign, or if a car's cutting in front of you, you don't have to worry about getting off the pedals and keeping your balance. You can just brake and you're in balance.
Yeah. And
Not
your
going to
feet,
fall as easy.
you're not pedaling with your feet, are you? Are you pedaling with your hands or your feet?
No, mine is with my feet.
Yeah. Some are with the hands though, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that, my point is that there's always things out there, even if, you do get amputated and have an amputation, losing a limb, there are tons of things out there that you can still do.
Sure.
If you wanted to play hockey, I'm Canadian, of course, I want to play hockey, right?
Right.
So you can sit and skate from a sitting position. Your hockey stick is kind of bent in a triangle, and on each end there's a pick that allows you to kind
Yeah.
of go like this and get around the ice. And that can be a really competitive sport, and especially in the Paralympics if
Right.
you wanted to get to that level, right? But my point is there's lots of things to do, and we adapt to those different sports if we want to. Um,
Yeah,
you,
I've joined a couple of just online programs now, but eventually I'm going to get more involved in adaptive sports. I'm looking at golf, which I've done once since my amputation. Um,
yeah,
and it was fun, but I got to watch which course I play because I don't want to be off balance, having to take a swing and fall.
yeah.
And then I want to get into pickleball,
Oh, awesome.
and I'm
Yeah.
going to see what else.
Yeah, pickleball's becoming big up here too in Canada. Yeah.
Yeah,
They say it's fun. I've never played yet, but
neither have I. I used to play
some.
tennis and racquetball, so it'll
Oh,
be a
okay.
spin-off
So
of that.
yeah, so you'll be good. My goal is to get back into golf. I played a lot of golf before my amputation, so I'll
Right.
get there. That's one of my goals for, it's the fall now here, but maybe next season I'll be up and golfing. Um, okay,
That's
well,
my goal
so.
too, so we'll have to get out sometime.
Oh, absolutely. There's a few of us up here in Toronto that are
Yeah.
amputees. There's one guy that I know that runs a school to teach you how to golf as an
Oh, that'd be
amputee. He's an
great.
amputee himself. So yeah, you could come up and spend the summer up here and we'll teach you how to golf.
I'd love to.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice, eh? So listen, let's move into a different topic. I wanted to kind of touch on what kind of support that you have now and why support is so important to have.
Yeah, well, my family has always supported me throughout this, and even the other medical issues I talked about.
Yeah,
And having to move back in with my parents was kind of tough.
yeah.
Um, and unfortunately, me and my mom lost my dad about a little over a year ago, so now it's just me and
Oh,
my
I'm
mom.
sorry.
So we're kind of supporting each other.
Yeah.
Um, and then I have siblings. I have a twin brother, but he lives in Houston, so we don't talk or see each other much. And I
Okay.
have a sister that's not far away, but she's got three kids and a husband. So,
Yeah.
I see her at times. And then, like I said, the amputee community itself, even though most of it's virtual.
Hmm.
Um, and then the new church I joined, there's a lot of people there that really support me. And I
Oh,
started going
good.
to a men's group on Tuesday mornings. I
Okay.
go three of the Tuesdays out of the month. Another one, I have a different event that I have to go to in person.
Right.
And, I help them clean the church and do certain things. So that's helped with my rehab, both physically and mentally as well. And
Oh, yeah.
they're just a great group of guys. And they've
Yeah.
supported me. They've helped my fundraiser for the stair climb.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing them again tomorrow.
Yeah, this is great. Like, you might lose friends, but there are so many opportunities to gain new friends and
Right,
really meaningful relationships. That's what I find.
right.
I'm connecting with people that I would never thought I would have connected before, and they're all over the world, like yourself, right? In Chicago.
Yeah,
And
me as well. Yeah,
yeah, it's great friendships, and the support is just, especially other amputees. They know what you're going through,
right,
right?
right.
So that's good. What about advocacy? How do you feel about advocacy, and what sort of things are you doing to make people aware of limb loss and limb difference?
Well, a lot of people just ask me what happened, um, how I've progressed since then, what's changed. And I've gotten involved, with Limbloss Connection as well as some other groups that I'm going to get more involved in advocacy for it as well.
Yeah,
My plastic surgeon, I've talked to a couple times, so I might get up to the hospital and do some advocating there, whether it's with um, upcoming amputees that are worried or recent amputees and just kind of working with them.
yeah,
There's another group, I forgot the name of it, but they try to get out and just recognize certain cities that have um, accessible communities, whether it's restaurants, libraries, that
right.
kind of thing, just to show that this this community is representing that a handicap and they want it to be accessible
Yeah.
and it's growing their business too.
Yeah, that's a big one. You walk around Toronto, and I never realized how many places were not accessible. But even though they advertise that they're accessible,
Right,
you look them up online, you think, oh, okay, I'm good. But when you get there, it's a whole different story, right?
right,
The wheelchair can't even get into through the door for crying out loud,
exactly.
or if you're walking, it's like, you got to go up 3 steps before you can get into the restaurant. Yeah,
Yeah, the doors are heavy as can be, so if you're on a cane
right.
or walker, it's a
Yeah.
balancing.
Yeah. There's a real gap also when you leave the hospital and try to get support, or hear about advocacy. A lot of the hospitals don't provide that.
Right,
You get out of, at least in Canada anyway, you get out of your surgery, and they might give you 1 or 2 weeks in rehab. And even that, when I was in rehab, I I didn't get a whole lot of rehab. I was getting 10 minutes a day and then going back to my room. So I ended up checking out and finding a true rehab center.
yeah,
I also think there's a real gap between the orthosurgeons that perform the amputation, everything from, hey, you're going to lose your leg, and how they communicate that, to,
right.
not following up after you've had your amputation. Is that how you
Right.
felt down in the States as well, or did you have a different experience?
Um, no, I felt that way because there wasn't a list of groups that you can join, or
Right.
they didn't make me aware of Amputee Coalition that's been around for 40 years.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things I want to get to the hospitals and where I had physical therapy so that they're aware of the resources that are available.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes
Yeah.
a huge difference in your life.
It's one of the things that we're trying to do at Limbloss Connection that you mentioned
Mm,
earlier. And anybody that wants to learn about that, you can go to limlossconnection.com and you'll see what we're doing there. But one of the big things is just providing, people with immediate support. So I
right,
go to the hospital here, my regional hospital, 3 times a week. I go up there and I talk to people that have lost their limb, and sit with them, and tell them stories about how you're going to adapt, and just calm their nerves. And
right,
it's really beneficial that way. So somehow we got to close that gap between the surgeons. The other thing, I think, you tell me how you feel about this, is just having, some kind of psychotherapist, or some kind of professional there that can deal with mental issues and whatnot. Did you have any of that, or did you seek any of that out when you lost your limb?
Not initially, not when I was in the hospital or anything like that. And you always have people saying, "Oh, I know what you're going through. I can understand
Yeah,
it." You don't understand it unless you've gone through it. And like you said
right.
earlier, we all go through different levels of amputation, whether it's a toe, a finger, or a leg. We
Yeah.
can kind of relate to each other, but people
Yeah.
that haven't had any form of it, they can't relate at all.
Yeah, you're losing something in your life, right? And
Right.
it's a body part, but it's you still go through a grieving process of that body
Yeah.
part, right? So, I don't want to get into it, but there's those 5 stages of grieving, right? And
Mhm.
I kind of
Right.
felt like I went through that for sure. Did you suffer from
And
any
I,
kind of depression when you had your amputation?
yeah, I definitely did. And
Yeah,
I have even since then, I'll go through my phases, like I said. Like,
yeah,
obviously, with the winter coming in Chicago, I can't get outside as much and just go for a little walk. I don't want to fall
yeah,
on the ice, obviously. And, so I was seeing a therapist for a while, and that therapist left the facility I was going to. I
right.
was going to see him every 2 weeks. So I'm in transition to find my new therapist.
Yeah,
And I also go see a psychiatrist because I have severe anxiety,
right.
um, and I have some heart issues. So, I got to keep my meds balanced and
Yeah.
my
You know
physical
what?
and mental health.
You know what? And I'm glad you're, being so open and transparent about this because it brings up a good point. I see a therapist myself too. And I think that most people in the world should see a therapist, regardless of whether
Definitely.
you're amputated or not, because especially nowadays, we have so many different, challenges and pressures and issues in the world. It gets your anxiety up, it gets your stress levels up. It can really do a lot of good just to, even if it's virtual, talking to a therapist that can kind of walk you through things and how to deal with them. So really glad that you are so transparent about that, Jamie. Um,
Well, I started seeing a therapist about 20 years ago after I had my spine surgery I mentioned
right.
earlier. And my work required me to go to it because they
Oh,
knew it was a significant operation. I was out of work for 3 months. Um,
yeah,
so they wanted me to come back in the right mindset. And I had been apprehensive about it. But once I started going,
yeah,
I went for the periods they wanted me to, and then on and off. I kept doing it up until now as I was going through different phases of my anxiety or other struggles with life. So you're right.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
everybody needs some form of it, and you can't always rely on your family and friends for that kind of thing,
No, you can't. I talk to my therapist about things that I'd never talked to my family about. And it's just,
right?
it's just a good, especially guys. Guys don't tend to talk, right? So,
Right.
it's important. Hey, listen, you mentioned winter. You're in Chicago, so you get some good winters there. And I'm in Toronto.
Right.
We get, brutal winters sometimes.
Right.
Do you have any fears or any worries about walking on the ice and snow? Do you have any tips? You walked last winter, is that true outside?
Yeah, because I was going to work.
Yeah,
So if it was too cold and rainy or snowy, then I would work at home.
right,
Um, or at least wait until my friend at the office said that the parking lot was plowed and he would help me in. So I just had to have that balance to know when I should and when I shouldn't go out.
right.
Because I took some falls right the first winter. The 2 years ago when I had the surgery, it was a pretty mild winter and I didn't have to worry about much. I was able to go to therapy with my parents dropping me off and whatnot. But then the following winter, I took some falls in the driveway when it was, black ice and
Mhm.
cut the back of my head open. And so, after you take a fall or two, you learn that it's not worth it, no matter where you're supposed to go,
Right.
unless you have someone there that's gonna, help you with whatever you need
Yeah,
under your terms, not under their terms. Because, like
right.
we said earlier, if you're going to go fall, you need someone that understands it.
Yeah, I find like I walked a little bit last winter and I had to take the wheelchair on those days, and I was okay with it. I was like it's much safer to do that. Um yeah, I can even get in our vehicle in the garage, right, where it's dry and everything else. But what worries me is when I get to my destination, what's it going to look like? Have
Right.
they shoveled the driveway, those types of things? I just bring that up because we're headed into winter here now, and
Right.
it's a real concern for a lot of people that have amputees
Yeah.
and whatnot. All right. Well, listen, Jamie, is there anything you want to add? If you were to talk to people new to amputations that you went through that would help them, experience this and get them through the journey in a more positive way. Anything you want to add to this conversation yourself?
I think kind of like we talked about earlier, I think if someone knows that they're going to have an amputation, whether it's from diabetes or a form of cancer or something, and they have that time to plan it out, seek some resources before you have it done. I
Yeah.
remember after I had my amputation, a couple of months after, I found some groups and they had resources about going through the whole process, right? Going in
Yeah.
the week or two or days before, what to expect, how to gear yourself up, what to do right after.
Yeah.
And a lot of those resources are written by people that have been through it, not the doctors that perform the
Yeah.
amputation. It's a more valuable resource than just your
Yeah.
surgeon.
Yeah, absolutely. We put together a resource on Limbloss Connection. I think it's called Getting Started,
Yep.
or something like that, Getting Started with Your Journey. Anyway, it's a set of resources that you can read through, and it talks about what your experience is going to be like inside the hospital, for example, and what your expectations are there. It talks a little bit about driving again, and
Mhm.
and what to expect there. It talks a little bit about going home after the rehab center, what to expect
Right.
there, how to buy a wheelchair. These are all things that we didn't have to do before. So,
Right.
we wrote this, to help people because it was on our mind when we were in the hospital. And we felt like it was a good resource for people to get started and, calm some of their concerns down by reading these documents.
Right.
But yeah, that's great. Anything else, Jamie, before we go and wrap up?
Yeah, I think, like we keep saying, look for the resources, look for the support from somebody that's within our community. There's so many people that are willing to spend the time, whether it's in person or on a phone call or a Zoom call. There's a
Yeah,
lot of people out there that want to help everyone else out. And to me, we formed a really tight community. And like I
yeah,
said, this is where a lot of my friends are. I wish they were in person, but
yeah.
I'll see a lot of people in January in Vegas at the Amputee Coalition, the Limb Loss, Limb Difference Convention. I can't wait for that.
Yeah. Yeah, for those on the call that don't know about that, Amputee Coalition has been around a long time. You said 40 years,
It'll,
right? I think they celebrated their
that's
40th anniversary.
it. That's what we're celebrating in Vegas.
Yeah. And so in Vegas in January, they have their annual conference, and a lot of us will meet there for the first time. We haven't,
Right.
we're relatively new amputees, so really looking forward to that. And hey, who doesn't like Vegas, right?
Right. Well, 2 years ago I went and they usually do it in August. And 2 years ago I went, a couple months after my amputation, and it was in Orlando, Florida.
Right.
And I couldn't go last year in Atlanta, but I'm definitely going this year. Not just because of Vegas, but just because of the community and
Yeah.
the experience I had 2 years ago. It's unforgettable.
Yeah, that's what they say. Everybody I talk to says the same thing. Well, listen,
Right.
Jamie, I really appreciate this, and I really wish you all the best on this Sears Tower climb that you're going to be doing.
Thank you.
Any way I can support you, please let me know. And We want to see some pictures. We want to hear about it. Okay.
Yeah,
When you come
definitely.
back. All right.
Definitely.
Well, thanks for your time today, and we will connect another time. So for those connecting on the Next Step podcast here, our next edition will be out probably in the next week or so, and we look forward to talking and having another discussion with one of our great amputees. The user story, like yeah, stories. Okay.
And thank you, Kevin, for the support you've already given me over the past several months and for all you do for Limbloss Connection and the whole group that has put it on. It's a
Yeah.
tremendous resource.
It is. I hope people check it out. All right, Jamie, thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin.